a hit TV show, a best-selling book, and a hugely popular podcast, I think he might live in Seattle because lately he's been here a lot. Marc is back in town and back in our studio. He's going to be headlining tonight's benefit comedy show at the Moore, the Silver Jubilee at the Moore Theater, which celebrates the 25th anniversary of Sub Pop. It benefits the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation, Northwest Harvest, and KEXP. It also features Eugene Merman and many other very funny comics. It's a hot ticket for tonight. And don't miss Sub Pop's huge free concert tomorrow. All the details at bobrivers.com. Marc Maron, good to see you.
Nice to see you, fellas and lady.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you, man. Look at, what did you take off weight? You look like a different guy. What are you doing? What's happening?
It has been a few years since I've seen you.
Did you have some cathartic event happen?
Every day.
Did you see that light that said, "Oh"?
I downloaded an app.
And you lost weight just from that?
Yes.
What app is that?
Well,
why don't you tell these guys about it?
Boom! It's called My Little Tapeworm. It's called. Yeah.
I went to a doctor just like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And she said, your weight's creeping up. Your blood pressure's creeping up.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was really annoyed with her. It's like, you're supposed to be nice to me.
Oh, right.
And so on the way out.
What's with the judgment? Is that what you thought?
Right, what's with the judgment?
You're getting a little personal, aren't you, Doc?
On the way, I know. I've even said, well, you're a doc. You're used to ugly people.
Right,
Just, sure, I don't mind being naked.
Yeah.
But so I am on the way out, like, seriously, this is brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
It popped into my head.
Yeah.
I'll bet there's an app for that.
For losing weight?
And so I searched fitness and nutrition.
Yeah.
And it turns out there's an app run by a nutrition expert.
Uh-huh.
It's called My Net Diary, and I've turned a lot of people onto it.
And is it working for people?
Not a lot of them, no.
Well, let's put it this way. I use it. Clearly, it's a hit and miss kind of a situation.
But the way it works, if you're actually interested, the way it works
Yeah.
is like a checking account.
Sure.
You deposit your calories in your account, and when
Right.
you eat something, you
Yeah.
subtract the calories. And so there's a part of me
Right.
that is a freaked out paranoid control freak.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Most of me
Yeah.
is a freaked out paranoid.
Yeah, everyone's got an inner fascist.
Yeah. And so it turns out that none of the, mirrors didn't
Yeah,
work.
right.
No knowledge didn't work.
Right.
Nothing worked. But getting to micromanage what I ate.
Great.
But people thought I was crazy.
Oh no, I've done Weight Watchers, man. Before apps, when you did when I got up to about 200 pounds, I did Weight Watchers, and your day is just a math problem.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got a certain amount of calories. Right. Everything's got points. You're writing on napkins. You just have these weird pieces of paper that say like cereal 1, broccoli 0. Everything just becomes this math problem the entire day, and it's the greatest feeling when you make it under the number.
One of your episodes, you're talking about having a cheat day. You're sitting there eating a burrito.
Well, that was
on
different.
there.
Yeah, that was a different diet. Right now, I'm off reservation. I just stopped at this place to have coffee. We didn't know where to stop, so we go to this Top Pop place, and I'm like, yeah, donut. You're supposed to eat donuts in the morning. Americans eat donuts.
It's an American thing to do.
Yeah, I'm going to eat a glazed old fashioned. So I shoved that in my face and don't feel good about it. But the cheat day thing, that was the 4-hour body thing. That's a little bean heavy. You got to have someone that really loves you.
Or a broken nose.
Yeah.
One of those two.
Is it because of the fiber? It focuses hard on beans?
Well, it's basically you can't eat anything white. You got no sugar, no cheese, no flour, no nothing. So you're limited to just meat, vegetables, and legumes.
Nothing white's the Al Sharpton diet, right?
Sure.
You wear a lot of jewelry and a tracksuit and no white.
But look how good he looks.
He looks great.
He
He's
took
lost
off like
150
pounds on that with the no white things diet. But and then one day a week you get a cheat day. And that's dangerous. I don't know if they know. I think Tim Ferriss, the guy who runs that diet, who invented it, he knows that there are compulsive people who are. You just wait for that day, man. And what you can do on that day is profound. I mean, if you really put your mind to eating whatever you want.
To cheating.
Oh, yeah, but you're entitled to it. Yeah. You're sort of like, I'm just ice cream for breakfast. That's not a problem. It's that day.
It's my day.
Yeah. So
then are you hungover from that cheating day?
Horrendous.
And then it carries into the next day.
Sure, yeah, and then you're like, I got to keep this going. Sure, it's just like alcohol. You sort of like, I had ice cream yesterday. I feel like crap today. Why not have ice cream today? And then the diet's that cheat day. The cheat day I'm on now started 3 months ago, so it's not.
Well, you've earned
Big res.
You've been working hard.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Marc Maron, Mark, I spoke to you a few weeks ago. I actually heard him on another radio show being interviewed, and it's a great interviewer. Got to give Howard Stern props. He's one of the
first time. Yeah, it's the first time I ever did that.
Is that the first time you've been on Conan 500 times?
Sure.
Right?
Never did Stern. Never. Yeah, I don't. Never did it. A lot of
He
friends
dug
did it.
into your past. He's
little bit.
perhaps the most deep, interviewer when it comes to that stuff. Stuff about your father. Actually, I didn't even want to know. But anyway, listening to you, and we had just talked to you, and your show was being launched. And people are talking about you as a cultural phenomenon. I don't know if that freaks you out, but because you essentially are viewed as launching yourself with your podcast, creating the demand by simply being out there on the internet, what everybody dreams of.
Just by being desperate.
By being desperate.
I found my niche.
By being viral and then the big guys come to you instead of you having to pitch a TV station. The feeling is we need a piece of this cool. It's like the reason they want Fallon on instead of Leno, even though Leno gets bigger numbers. They want this Twittering, they want this Facebooking, they want this the young people.
Well, I think that with Fallon, it's probably just straight up showbiz. They just want a young guy. You know what I mean? They're going to try to turn that audience over. With me, I don't really know how it happened. And Howard that was an interesting thing because I was really nervous about that. I'm a pretty transparent guy, but I was nervous about that because I was, as I was in New York, I'd never done the Howard Stern show before. I don't listen to him a lot. I didn't grow up with him. I know who he is, and I've listened to a few, but I don't have that relationship.
So it's a little scary because
I don't know what he's going to come up with. I'm like, what did he find? He's got a dossier in there. I mean, there's very few things I haven't talked about.
It's like a grand jury investigation.
Well, yeah, kind of. I was like, what's he got? And
my lawyer told me not to answer this question.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't want to be in that position, but I know there's very few things I haven't talked about. So I was nervous, but then I'm waiting to go on, and I see the TV screen, and he's on it. He's down. He's on a break. And he didn't have his sunglasses on, and he was just sitting there eating melon out of a container. And I'm like, oh, that's just an old Jew eating melon. What's scary about that?
Right.
I'm a Jew. That guy's eating melon. I understand melon.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
it's nice.
Yeah, and I walk in.
So that calmed you down.
It did.
Nice.
So. And I didn't know. I'd never been on the show. And you literally walk in, and Baba Booey is the producer. Like, you walk into the studio, and he puts earphones on you before you sit down that have a mic. And before you sit down, Stern's talking to you. And he basically says, you're kind of a jealous, like he right away he called me a name, an a-hole and whatever. But it was the way he does it, and I'm
in
like,
a friendly way,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's where we're going. Jealousy and being a douchebag. Yeah, I can speak to that. I have no problem with that at all.
He threw you a softball,
right? Yeah, and I was like, great, and it was interesting. We talked for an hour. Robin wasn't there, and he didn't have his glasses on, so it was an exciting thing.
Now, I don't want to duplicate that interview, especially stuff about your dad, but there were a few things that I found out about you in there. Like there's this parallel. I mean, you have come up with lots of great comics.
Yeah.
And by any comics measurements, you're incredibly successful.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people in entertainment, to me, including myself,
Yeah, sure.
never satisfied with themselves.
No, envy's it's one of the 7 deadlies for a reason.
It is, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's
And
completely
you were,
malignant.
And a little bit was asked about you being maybe envious of Jon Stewart a bit.
Yeah, the weird when I started the podcast, and it wasn't exactly like you said. I started the podcast with no real expectation. And just to continue working, I've been working.
You didn't set up to become this internet pioneer.
I'm not a hipster. I'm not anything. At the time when I did that, I'd done radio, and I'd been part of a failing radio thing, and then I went back there to get myself out of a divorce financially, and we did another thing, a streaming video thing, and that tanked out after a year, and then sort of really out of not knowing what else to do. The comedy career was in the toilet. I'd started doing this thing.
Even with all those appearances and everything, you can't
Doesn't
just
matter.
tour
Doesn't
the country.
matter.
Wow.
No, hell no. I mean, because Conan O'Brien, as good as it is, the thing is that who knows why people gravitate to anybody. If we knew the answer to that, if we could create lightning in a bottle, we would all do it, and we'd have huge followings, all of us. But I've been on that show a lot, and he's been very good to me. But I found out you can build it, and they won't come. It's not. That's not.
There was a liar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where I was at was like I didn't know what else to do, and I knew people were doing podcasts, and we started. We still had security cards to the radio station where we at, so we were going to the studio after hours, and we started doing that. So that kind of started rolling. And where am I going with this? Oh well, so at that time when I started the podcast, I'd given up. Like literally, and you understand this, and I think some people do. In order to be in this business, in show business, you have to nourish a delusion. So you have to believe that someday it's going to happen, and it's infantile and it's ridiculous. But how do you fire yourself? How do you kind of temper your pride to accept that it's not working out and own that? I mean, that is a horrendous place to be, to grow up, to say like, well, this didn't happen. I'm not going to be the comic I wanted to be. I don't know what's going to happen next, but that's not going. I'm not going to be on TV. I'm not going to be a big comic.
And that's where you were. You were at that place.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to be.
And
a big
you
comic.
had a few divorces, and
right. Yeah. Well, that was horrible. The second divorce was horrible. So I was shattered.
Nobody
in
take
that
care
way.
of your cats, and
Well, I did that.
You do that.
But that moment, though, where you really realize that and you accept it, like okay, I lost. Now, how do we not die broke and alone? So,
is that a setting the bar at a new spot?
Yes. That's the only spot. Yeah. What other spot is there?
Right.
After a certain age, you're like, well, what do you want out of life? Not to be broke. I'd like to have health insurance. Can I have that?
Right.
That's it. So because I'd really let that go, I was.
Were you depressed?
Yeah, I was like, I was. I wouldn't say I was suicidal. But I thought about it a lot. I don't think I would have done it, but it made me feel better.
Would you call
It made you feel better that you could end it all.
Would you call it pseudo-sidal? Where
No,
you're
I
close
like that.
to it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
not right yet.
Pseudo-sidal.
Pseudo-sidal,
Yeah. Almost done. But no, I was definitely depressed. But so that comes out of it. But a lot of the things I was able to let go of. There was a lot of them. Like I was okay with who I was, but jealousy is another thing. Jealousy is like this rekindleable flame. Like if you have in your mind a beef with somebody, you can turn that gas right up, and it's a very tricky. It's a tricky business. But Jon Stewart for me was always one of these guys when I was coming up. He was just everywhere, and he always seemed to know exactly where it was going. I never knew that. He had a plan. Like when I hosted the last version of Short Attention Span Theater, which he originated.
Right.
So I would be in these hallways at HBO Downtown Productions, burying this show. It wasn't even the show it began as. And it was just hallways of Jon Stewart pictures. The same haircut, the same look on his face.
Posting the picture of how proud they were to have him working there.
Oh, yeah. Well, he had
and
built
did they have
that
a picture
place.
of you?
No. There was one picture I think taken. And throughout my life, it was just there was pictures of Jon Stewart everywhere in New York. It's like he's on another magazine. Oh my God, Jon Stewart's doing this. So in my mind, it's like that guy. That guy is in my way. I thought like look, he's a cute Jew. I'm a cute Jew. If I could just keep my act together and commit to a haircut, I could be that guy if he wasn't in the picture. And we had words over the years. There was tension, and there still seems to
now
be.
has he had you on now that you've come?
Hell no.
No, but this is the perfect time for it.
You turned it up a little, haven't you? I can smell the jealousy filling the room.
No, it's time for him to have you on because you've got the book, you've got the show.
He won't do it.
Oh,
I wanted him.
well, he has everybody he hates on. He has Rumsfeld on.
How about while he's
That's
over-
a good point.
Oh,
That is a good point. I
Right.
never even thought of that
maybe
one.
Think about
if
it.
you invade a country without cause, he'll have
Yeah,
you on
maybe
for
I'll
that.
just
He
go-
has
go-
Bill O'Reilly on.
and he won't have me. He really
How could
doesn't
you be
like
lower
me.
than Bill O'Reilly?
I never thought about it like that. That's
Yeah.
a whole new level of jealousy I can function
Yeah,
or
there you
anger.
go.
Well, no, I wanted to have him.
Are
on
you
my
angry, by the way?
I'm okay.
The reason I ask this is because
I'm okay.
there's a thin line between anger and laughter, and
and anger and sadness, ironically.
yeah, and amazing, isn't it? And smiles.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched your show last night.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. When I when we interviewed you about it, I said, wow, that sounds great. I really have to check that out. And then I used my sources like Jody, who said, we checked out Mark's show. Yeah, it's really good.
Oh, good.
I was like, okay, then it's in the really good list, not like I have to be polite to my friend.
Right.
And so yesterday I said, oh, we have Mark for a full hour, because I had said, oh, when you come to town, sit, we'll take you for the full. So last night, long day, I'm getting ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
As I'm getting into bed, I haven't watched Mark's show yet. Shoot. And so I sat there with my iPad, and I bought the full season. In HD, by the way. It was $16 or $26.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I thought, I want to see every crevasse of stress and tension. And I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
And the character.